Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? My little forum, where we're going to talk about the meaning of the past, the maybe the ideas of the past, the events of the present, and the possibilities of tomorrow. Does that sound good? We're going to talk about who we are as biological slash spiritual slash source based creatures in a source based universe, in a connected universe where we're trying to act as though we are not connected, in a universe where we are very, very, very much connected, and why that's causing problems, and why it is, how you can look and see how it caused problems in the past, and we can avoid those problems in the future by understanding who and what we really are. We are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And we are way, way, way more magical and blessed and delightful than we have ever imagined. We are the playful otters of the universe. We are possessors of such magnificent vibrational instruments called our emotions. But you can only play those intentionally if you understand what they are and what they cause. We are so amazing. We are so amazing. And I believe that a further investigation of our amazingness will help mitigate frankly, our horribleness, because we are also quite horrible. And right now, in this present moment, my country is having issues. We are having issues with the autocrat, the age-old thought form enemy of mankind, and our struggle to understand it and ourselves, how to love each other without falling into the trap of hating the other, even when the other is simply the ones. You can't hate the haters either. You can't hate the Nazis either, even though they absolutely conditionally need to be hated. And yet they don't, because what they actually need to be is understood. We need to understand this phenomenon. We need to understand this phenomenon within ourselves, because this is a thing that happens to us. It happens to us. It's a kind of misalignment within our internal structure that causes a big blind spot in our ability. You and I can see the world way, way better than the people that we blame as being heartless and horrible. The reason that they are heartless and horrible, to a large extent, is because they actually cannot see what other people can see. They are blind. And yet, in their own personal clarity, they imagine themselves to be more clear-minded than anyone. This is what Paul Levy calls Wetiko disease. It's actually very interesting. But the way past all of this is to just, in a way, our excitement, our agitation is the problem. The polarity itself is the problem. There really isn't any big problem that that taking the polarity out of it wouldn't just completely solve. So how do we take the polarity out of it? I'll tell you where the polarity is. The polarity is within our own minds. Anybody who sees a problem with polarity I mean, really, who feels that, who's been taking on that emotional roller coaster. Now, just observing it is not the problem. Observing it is fine. Taking the roller coaster yourself, feeling the, that one, if you're having that problem, then the answer is, well, no matter what your problem is, the answer is know thyself, because it is, unless you're seeing your problems as opportunities, then your problems are being caused by a misalignment of your own observational equipment. You've got your own lenses crossed to one another. You don't understand that there are two of you inside of you. If God was outside of you, you could escape her or him. Take your pick. It doesn't matter. It's not a gender thing. It's an energy thing, and it includes everything. So, it's a he, she. But I like her because it identifies, with me, and I also feel the uh, the nurturing sense of the female archetype, you know. But sometimes you might go with the opposite of who you are so that the whole base is covered. It's like I talk about the spirit of mankind and how she, whatever. So you use the word mankind, and then when you use a pronoun, you refer to she, and then you've covered all your bases, right? Because we are everybody. We are all of us. We are, by definition, the whole connected universe, the divine matrix that we are all swimming in. We are connected with one another. And this spectrum of possibility that I have identified here, and it has to do with our source-based nature and our dual, it's split, but it's not really split. Our dual nature, me and my individual, analytical, physical atoms self on the one hand, but also my vibrationally based holographic wholeness that connects me to the whole rest of everything and is being uploaded and updated every instant as things change. I have access to that information. And if you just live from that place, instead of always trying to translate into this sticky, weird, heavy, dense other space that you also occupy, you know, it's a spectrum. It goes from the very, very dense to the very, 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 very spiritually light. And you are the whole thing. How does understanding all of this help us? Well, it just helps everything because it helps you put into perspective this moment in time. That's what I think we need. We need a little bit of perspective in what is happening in the world right now, where we are in this moment in time, in this great movie of history. Have you been following it? The drama is incredible. Have you figured out what the meaning is? Have you figured out what the theme, what the moral of this movie is? History? It is, wow, what does it mean to be mankind? We are magnificent. We are interesting. We are horrible. We are destructive. We are creative. We are mercurial. We are endlessly colorful. And at every step of the way, we imagine that this is the only way. Have you ever looked back through the ages of time and realized that every single time we thought that? And then have you compared how wildly different all of those ages were? And every time we thought, this is it. This is the only thing. It's so funny. We are so funny. We are amazing. We are fascinating. We're powerful. We are creative. We are magicians. We are magicians, every single one of us. And how well you are creating dark or light, is depending upon how well you are focusing. Now, one of the reasons that the darkness takes the first swing is because there is a kind of power that is created by just a um, clarity of I'm talking about an intensity of focus, a locked in focus that is not just a focus. There is tremendous power in that. And actually, that often turns into be what we notice initially as the dark side. Looks like the dark side because it's just a selfish focus that then starts to grow, and it amplifies. And initially it's not so bad when the guy who was not clearly in alignment but very focused on what he wanted and how he created whatever it was that he created. But then it's sort of after he died, it became an institution and then kind of carried on a life of its own. But there were institutional flaws in it from the very foundation because the man who created it wasn't really in alignment, you know, not fully. He had certain things that he had great clarity of focus. A good one to cite as an example to this is John D. Rockefeller, who was instrumental in setting the first, casting the first, I don't know how, he started a lot of our institutions, was influential. I don't know how far. The institutions of doctor education and law institutions and pharmaceutical institutions and chemical factory institutions and the laws governing between all of it, what needed to be done in order for the laws to be satisfied, so that if you accidentally hurt people, you could pay them some sort of restitution that wouldn't break you, and you could keep going. And he was instrumental he was called a philanthropist, but in actual fact, he had his own vested interest going on in there, and God bless him. But the problem is, and the whole what we have as a result here 100 years later, because he was back in the early part of the 20th century. We are now in the second quarter of the 21st century, well into the 21st century. So it's over 100 years later. The institutions that he helped to start in misalignment, while at their core there is some intention of doing good, there is some intention of making people well. In a way, the institutions themselves have a life of their own and sort of an institutional vested interest in the problems not really being solved. Because if the problem that the institution was created to solve gets solved, it by definition means the death of the institution, and the institution itself starts to have a life of its own. And it's very interesting psychologically. Who we are and what's going on. Now, I advertise in this show that in talking about source energy, we're going to solve two of humanity's greatest problems. And actually, during the course of all of this, we're going to solve all of them. Every single one of them is going to be solved by the perspective that we're going to be taking. Because once achieving this perspective, oh, all the ideas of how to solve these problems, which are no longer problems, but rather opportunities. Ooh, we have all these ingredients and all these potential cooperative components at our fingertips. What do we want to do? And then get really clear about what we want to do. And don't worry, don't waste any of our time thinking about or troubling ourselves with why we can't do it, or why we shouldn't do it, or all of the things standing in our way and the problems that we're going to have with it in any other way than anticipating the resistance in a uh, in a detached sort of way, so that you can just get out ahead of it. It's just the same way that you plan a trip. You understand all of the components involved, and what you're going to encounter, and you get out ahead of all of it. You get all your reservations, you get all your visas in line, you get everything in a portfolio, you put your passport in, you get what I mean. You just get out ahead of it. You work it all in your mind, and as soon as it's there, then you act. So, who are we? Who are we? Remember, that's actually the question. Who am I in all of this? Not what is all of that, because everybody has different ideas about what all of that is. The question really is, who am I in the middle of all of that? In a general way, because you are going to take what I'm saying generally and go apply it to your specific life. This general thing, the general things that I try to talk about, I talk about it in a place where I like to bounce. I should probably not do that. Um, it's because sometimes there's a lot of vibration coming at me when I do this, and uh, you know, I'm translating a lot of information. Maybe that's why it makes me jiggle. Mm. So you should be able to take this into any specific physical condition and operate these rules, these laws, and recognize your own equipment and go, ah, yeah, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So when you have an emotion, your emotions are not being caused by the conditions around you. Your emotions are actually being caused by the thoughts you have of the conditions you have around you. It seems to you like it's the conditions because sometimes it happens so quickly you don't feel the gap. But it is not the condition itself that's causing your emotions. It's the thoughts you have about the conditions that are causing your emotions. And the idea is you need to find a way so that the thoughts that you have are giving you better emotions. Um, you are actually, you really shouldn't be afraid. Your inner being is not afraid. From the perspective of your eternal, permanent, vibrational, spiritual, connected to all things self, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. We're here forever. Um, this is supposed to be fun. Who you really are is a person of good humor, a person of but a lot of people don't know that because they identify with their physical selves and they spend a whole lot of their life in perpetual agony, in fear, in what not if you're in fear or any state of negative emotion, your actual problem is through a state of misidentification, you're scattered on the road. You are not fully collected. You're not all there. Only a piece of you is there. And that piece of you is not wrong, but it still is just a piece of you and it doesn't include the rest of you. And so if you vest all of your action on that piece of you, you spend your whole life apart from yourself. And what what does that mean? What does that mean to be apart from yourself? To be I wish I knew. I am actually, first of all, let me say that I am absolutely delighted because yesterday I got 2 watches and 1 like for a 2-hour video that is very, very poorly labeled. Let me tell you, that is a victory. There's all kinds of people out there like really celebrating having gotten, 1 million views, or let's get to 1 million subscribers. That's really what I want to do. They may not understand how exciting it is for me to have 2 views and 1 like. Now, I have actually had more than that in my life, and I have around 60 subscribers. I had a really good couple of days once last year. But, since then, a lot of things have happened, and why you find your voice can change. I was fine. I actually did see the authoritarian train coming at us. It was quite a ways away. There were times when it looked like maybe we were going to avoid it, and history was just going to go up and do something else with us. But no, it kept coming at us, and I thought it would, because it is an energy event. It's not logic quite the way we think that it should be. And so when we look at the pictures of what's going on in Minneapolis and the disparity between reports, official reports, and the evidence of our own eyes, and we see truth to be under assault, and we see what is actually under assault is a perception of reality. And the problem with these people is they are not lying quite the way you think they are lying. They are actually self-deluded. It's much more powerful. If they were just lying, if they knew what we knew and was just trying to, I'm sorry, my eyelid itches and I don't want to pause. If they were actually seeing the truth that we see and feeling the feelings that we feel, but then, trying to pretend like it's something else, then we would have a much easier job with this. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that they see this in this other way. But in our forum, we're going to kind of touch on why that might be, and we're going to start thinking about, the ways that this is going to shift. First off, don't ever lose your faith in truth, because truth really is what's going to save us all. Because there is a truth. There is a truth in record. There's a truth in consciousness. There's a collective universal truth that we can all see. There is a truth that history records. I know there's lots of you could counter any of these things I'm saying with bitter, I don't believe that. And I get it. But we're going to talk about our design and the design of the matrix. And through this understanding, now we're going to understand how and where truth is going to prevail and why we can count on it. Just find it within your own self. You don't have to worry about anybody else. Find your own truth, find your own authenticity. And actually, we live in the greatest moment in time, because for the first time, now I'm an old woman, and I'm also something of an amateur historian. Just for my own, I'm just interested in history as I ponder who we are and where we have come from and what we might be about on planet Earth. And so just from that perspective, I have started realizing that in a pedagogical way, in a broad-based, long-term, with more information, but with light flowing and information flowing kind of way, we are a single organism. We are one being. And in a way, we're sort of in our adolescence. We think we are old. We are so not old. We might have at one point possessed an old culture, but that culture has been lost through geological upheaval, most likely on planet Earth, because Earth has had a very turbulent geological history, and we can be blasted back into the Stone Age pretty quickly. A few thousand years of cultivation, and we're back into the sophisticated creatures that we actually are. But the sophisticated creatures that we are is we're not sophisticated because over millions of years we evolved to this. We've actually been genetically modified, and upon our genetic modification, we were immediately um, culturally capable of being organized in sophisticated patterns. But then we're also capable of being bombed right back into the Stone Age when asteroids hit the Earth and nuclear winter hits us, and all of our sophisticated uh, uh, metropolises in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, all the ones that were too close to the seashore or whatever, when the waters came in and drowned them, and now they're under the sea. And then we don't remember who we are. We aren't left with manuals, how-to manuals. We're just left with with our equipment, and then this world that on the one hand feels separate in a way, but then there's these mysterious energetic forces that we feel connected to our minds and our feelings and the patterns that we experience as we walk through the world around us. And then we start superstitiously, calling it this, that, or the other thing. We have institutions that rise up for one reason, but then they want to live, and so then they start to control us. The institutions themselves start having a sort of artificial intelligence about them. And we've just got to understand why all of this works, what intelligence is. What is it being intelligent about? Well, what it is it's the matrix. It's this quantum field. And then, so there's the physical world, and everybody knows about this physical world, but there is also sort of, I don't know where this exists, right alongside it, right overlaid over the top of it. I don't know where this is, but there is also the information of the whole thing. And the information of the whole thing is right there in perfect echo, in a way, of all physicality. All the physical universe has an echo of its information that we possess. Did you know that? It's so interesting as you start finding, actually, finally, true alignment with what could possibly be the way the universe actually works. It's interesting how the whole project of the universe starts shifting for you. Um, I don't know what to do with it. Ooh, I hear my dog. Hold on. So excited. I'm back, and I have my dog with me now. So let's keep going, because so the question is, who am I? Who am I as an extension of source in this source-based universe? What is source? And how can I understand the physical universe around me in such a way that it helps me understand my spiritual life around me and my own physical emotions and my own understanding of my own destiny? and the meaning of my own life. Who am I? And then there's more questions than that, because I am an individual, but the fact of the matter is that my greater identity comes from being more than just my uh, individual self. I am the whole field around me. I am the whole thing. I am the whole thing, and you are too. And one of the most fascinating and blessed things about being in a human body is that we have this human consciousness that has the ability to sort of detach from it and then observe its truth and go, oh wow, that is that is who we are. That is what reality is. Isn't that amazing? And now, instead of banging around in problems, let's think about, well, what the frick can we do with this? I'll tell you what we can do. We can finally understand how to build systems that will not be knocked down in 100 years by angry people whom who are not served by the systems that we have created. Don't let the greedy, out of touch autocrat be the one who tells us where and how to build the buildings. Instead of taking care of the people and their needs, he will be tearing down historical treasures and building, gaudy ballrooms for only the elites, leaving all the other millions out in the cold. Do you think that's a good formula for long-term prosperity? Certainly isn't. What you are absolutely inviting angry, demonic, frustrated people doing horrible things on both sides of the situation. Angry people on the side of the people, angry people on the side of the government, and everybody's pointing fingers and blaming each other. It's you, it's you, it's you. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, what the problem is not individual human beings, but it's in the realm of archetypes, but what it is the actual problem is a thought form. And it's the thought form, a frame that starts the day, that before you even walk to the scene, as an interpreting lens, what you walk up to the scene with is an us versus them paradigm. The situation is an us versus them. That's what the problem is. It's us against them. That's the thought form. And as long as that thought form is sitting there, no matter how many of their leaders you decapitate, like the Greek Hydra, 10 more, pop up in their space. You can decapitate the autocrat, but until you understand the problem with the thought form, a better one is just gonna. He's the perfect autocrat right now because he's the perfect mirror to illustrate this situation. He's not ideological and he's not all that clever, and he keeps accidentally saying the quiet part out loud, which is what we have needed to hear. We have needed to hear the quiet part. It needed to be said out loud, and now we get to confront this, the quiet part, the loud part, all of it. We get to confront it out in the open, and for once and for all, we get to answer the one question that it always was. Who am I? And what does it mean to be a human being? And right now, I mean, you can see exactly how it's being asked now with, and the problem, if we would understand this and shift our will, we have it in our hands. Our senators could easily do this. But the problem is that thought forms are holding the MAGA, and we are not understanding in clarity what we really want. The money right now, there's a big packet of money that has been set aside for all of this in that big beautiful bill. There's a whole lot of that. That's where all of the money for the subsidies went. And there are plans in place to implement all kinds of these projects around around the country. The projects being the facilities to hold people, the camps. They're going to build the camps. They're hiring more goons. They need more paramilitary equipment, don't they? All of this stuff, and we we just have to. We can fight against it, throwing our bodies against the front lines, getting shot in the streets in the old-fashioned way. And it's probably helpful that the step one people are out there doing that. Abraham's step 1, 2, 3. Step one, contrast causes you to ask. Ask for better, ask for more. The question is, what do we want? And it's interesting, while a very large, well, not as large as I would like it to be, I think it ought to be 99% of the American public should be against what they're seeing in the streets of Minneapolis, and blame the government for it, not the people. However, there's a fair number of, there's a reasonable majority of people are against the policies of the Trump administration as they refer to immigration. However, when you ask them, well, what should it be? Regular people don't know what to say. They don't know what they want. Um, we need to more clearly be able to articulate what we want and not always be gobbed up in the exercises of pushing against what we don't want. If we would just go about advocating for what we do want and not waste so much time resisting what we do not want, we would get there quicker. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. But one of the reasons we don't do that is that we as a culture have become too reality based. Reality, I'm going to define in this moment, for us human beings, what we define as reality is the state of the material form, the crust of the universe, the state of the matter at any given moment in time is the state of reality at any given moment in time. It is changing, by the way. There's nothing stays the same. That's one of the five immutable laws of the universe. The first one is you exist, nothing you can do to change that. You're not going anywhere. I'm sorry. Even if you die, your consciousness is still there. You are still there. I promise you. Your body isn't still going to be there, and your perspective might be way, way different, but you aren't going anywhere. Everything is here now. Nothing you can do about that. Um, the all are one. The one is all. Nothing you can do about that. The fourth one is whatever you put out is what you get back. That's the only actionable law, actually, is that one. And then the fifth one is everything changes except for the laws. Now, who am I in all of this? And how does all of this... Now, obviously, I'm coming from an American perspective because I am on the American board grid, on that position in space and time. Here I am. But these laws of humanity, they apply to everybody. It doesn't matter where you are or from what perspective you are observing this same phenomenon that I'm looking at too. I mean, I'm looking at it, but the whole rest of the world is looking at it too, because we're the ones with the big guns, and we have let Mad Uncle Donald take the wheel. And for some reason, the Republicans are not seeing how dangerous that is Actually, they are the ones who are in danger because they're the ones who are holding the line, and the MAGA, the true believers, the ones who support the grift and the orbital structure of the dear leader, they are going to focus their outrage on the ones of his party if they start to break ranks. We're already cats out here that you can't herd. The rest of the millions of us who actually have the power, by the way. We have the power and we can exercise it at any time. And where the power comes from is clarity. And that's why the darkness always rises first, because in their single minded pursuit of their own perspective, they achieve a kind of vibrational primacy, but it, its misalignment is what eventually creates the flaws in its foundation that cause it to crumble. And it crumbles at the hands, those institutions, they crumble at the hands of angry people trying to knock it down because it's not serving their needs. If it was serving their needs, the anger storm wouldn't arise that way. That thing that we're seeing over there on the MAGA side, it is a storm of anger and grievance caused by institutions letting people down. There's no work. There's no vision. There's no we don't know who we are. We don't know what we're about. What's the object of the exercise? All of this pent up energy, and then also we don't know our own design. We don't know our own design. What is our design, you say? Well, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. You are two selves. One is formless. It's vibrational, purely, and contains all the information of all the universe. And it is your source. It is also what everyone else is. It's the same thing. It's everything in vibrational form. And you are flowing already in a pattern that the universe, in an organizational flow that the universe is already, you were born into. You do not have to frantically create out of nothingness a whole. You just need to understand who you are and what you are already a part of, and how you can use your equipment, your desires, your understandings, your beliefs, your gifts, your preferences, your equipment to achieve more of what you want. And incidentally, if you are in true alignment with the rest of the field, you're going to help get what everybody else wants farther down the field too. And that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Let's all get what we want. Let's all get what we want. Let's all get what we want. Well, what do we want? Well, we don't want blood in the streets of Minneapolis. We don't want blood in the streets of San Antonio or Albuquerque or Scarborough or you name it. I don't know about. I'm just saying we want peace. We want peace. We want love. We want prosperity. We want jobs. We want energy. We want warmth. We want friendship. We want beauty. We want dignity. We want our voice to be heard. We want love. We want to give and feel love. But what I think we really want to do is we want to know who we are. And as soon as we know who we are, then all of these things are going to be ours. Because I'll tell you what your problem is you are not loving yourself. You are two selves, and the vibrational self loves your physical self so much, loves you in your physical life, in your physical shoes, in your courage to be here, in your willingness to be here in an uncomfortable situation here on planet Earth, and a stranger in a strange land, not understanding what the object of the exercise is, what the nature of my equipment is, what's been going on in this freaking movie, what's the point of any of it. And yet, and it's scary. It is absolutely scary until you start realizing what the actual situation is, who you actually are. And if you can start identifying with that other self, that vibrational part of you that is part of the information of the whole universe, it's your little piece of it. It's your spin on it. If you want to take your spin and spin it into whatever and make it bigger and collect more to you as you spin this bigger spin that you are, or if you don't want to do that, you can shatter into a million zillion pieces and just dissolve back into the rest of the wholeness that you are until you think of something else you might want to do. Oh, this project that's going on right now on planet Earth is it's it. It's where all of the meat and juices and interesting. It's where everything is, where it all culminates, where we get to come to that point in human history where we have our eureka moment, our aha moment, where we realize who we are and we take power and ownership of that. Collectively, we realize we are humanity and we can have whatever we want. Whatever we want. We just have to keep our clarity of focus upon what we want as clear as those narcissists do for their own greedy purposes naturally. They do that naturally. They don't even have to try to think only of themselves. They're just born that way. And in the thinking only the thoughts that they think and never countering it, they demonstrate to us the power of that focused vibration. This also illustrates the meaning of because the truth is hard to swallow. That's what the war of love is for. A little frog in my throat this morning. Sorry about that. It's the war of love. It's why it happens. The darkness rises first, and then the love, which is always bigger, always broader based, always contains everybody and more power and energy. And once the blood has been engaged, then the power of that love to unite in resistance against the blood spilling, that has always been, you can see that, but we can use this power and this energy more intentionally and more just right off the get-go. We don't have to go all the way to although we love the drama. It's the drama of this that compels us. When we ache for Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the real people in their lives who loved them still and depended on them in their physical lives. That, I mean, that's how we engage humanity. That's how humanity starts to care about it. Because our hearts are actually what's holding the whole thing together. Did you know that? It is the power of love. Love, there's a direct analogy between the sensation that we feel as love and the gravity that holds the matrix together. The forces and the glue that hold this divine spinning black hole structure, consciousness-based universe that we are all a part of. The reason that I know I have an inner being is because the universe is holographic. I can know that right here where I stand within my physical atomic structure, is based all the information of all of the universe. And my inner being is simply a vibrational creature that can read the information. She can read the information. She's been doing it for eternity. Or I don't know. What is time? What is time? You can see it stretched lengthwise, horizontally. You can stack it vertically and look at it all at once. Who am I? Who are we? Well, if all of these things are true, then the value and worth of a human being has nothing to do with any physical outside characteristics whatsoever. Doesn't even have to do with your worth and value, doesn't even have anything to do with your alignment. Um, because I'll tell you what, um, right now, everything is serving the purpose that is supposed to serve. And even those who appear to be out of alignment, like the dear leader and his followers, who are very grievance oriented, and their thought form is there is someone to blame for my problems. That's the basic thing they start with. There is someone responsible for this, and I'm going to identify him for you. And once I identify him, I am going to throw the full and entire weight of the United States government behind the project of bringing him to heel, holding him responsible for our problems. Let's face it, that is the thought form. That is the thought form. Now, some people go along with it when they think that the culprit is going to be found to be the worst of the worst. You know, those mad, brutish criminals who engage in violence or unscrupulous, unlawful behavior. Sound familiar, anybody? These are all the people that Trump himself has let out of prison and then given jobs to. You know, it's him and his people. And by the way, they aren't the enemy either. They aren't the enemy either. Not individually, not exactly. They have taken up the thought form. The thought form is the problem. But why did they take up the thought form? Because our needs are not being met. Our institutions are not meeting the needs of the people. To employ the hands of the people in joyful, community connected work. What we need to create is a system where young people are raised understanding who they are, first of all, and then with kind of a really complex menu of possibilities of things that they might be able to do that would serve humanity, things that humanity needs to serve it, and then different processes of putting the children through activities, perhaps, that would help them and the system understand how they would best, sort of like a sorting hat process, so that your true characteristics can be understood, so that you are put in a place where not only it wants you, but you want it. It's like, oh, this would be fun for me to do, and I would be good at it. And so you get put into the position that optimally you'd be the best one at, and you'd really enjoy doing it. You see how that works? Because what you want wants you, but we don't have a system of figuring out what that is. We don't even have a system of understanding that that's true. And anybody who thinks that is considered, kind of out there. I know I'm out there. I am out there. because I'm looking at all kinds of reality. Ideality, which is sort of, that's where you're heading, or at least you should be, if um, your target in the distance should be ideality. Now, as you go, you keep encountering reality on your way to ideality. And the ideality is sort of the construction of that which you want, using the components, you know, of what we've got, using the ingredients of what we've got to create that which we want. And that's the target. That's where you're going. At least that's what I think we should be doing. That's how I think we should be looking at it. That's who I think we are, you know? Who am I, and how does all this work? And how can I use who am I, who I am, to benefit my people, to benefit humanity, and have, because humanity benefits me enormously all the time. We should be so grateful for humanity. If we realized, if you're a historian, you would understand how hard things were in life before humanity, how hard things were for human beings before humanity became established on this planet, before our agricultural practices, as imperfect as they are, and we've got them in place. We absolutely should be grateful for them on the one hand, and in our gratitude for our ability to be able to feed ourselves, we should never lose sight of being able to do it better, because we could do it better. We are hurting the planet in the way that we do our practices. But we do not have to hurt the planet. We can understand. We can learn. We can be as smart as artificial intelligence, but use it to the benefit of humanity. Have the benefit of humanity be at the ultimate goal, but not the benefit of humanity at the expense of all the rest of the biofield. In actual fact, you could run equations where you could figure out how humanity's surviving. I want that to be one of the elements. But then added to the equation the maximum, 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 and can always be growing. It can be open-ended on that one side. The most number possible of other species that can harmoniously survive in the same ecosystem. And then from there, work with our higher self to bring more and more and more of that abundance into being, as it pleases us, as it pleases everybody. We are allowed to please ourselves. We are allowed to please ourselves and others. It is okay for us to be happy. As a matter of fact, you are not connected to your source if you are not happy. And you are not nearly as much benefit to the rest of humanity as you think you are if you are not happy. Happy people create better institutions. Happy people create better infrastructure. Happy people create better worlds. But not naive people. We need to be happy without the naivety of our past. We need to understand the darkness within us and where it comes from. It's actually a kind of lack of sight. It's a kind of inability to see. And so all of these people that we have decided are our enemies, the ones who are running all the government bureaucracies right at the moment, and wreaking havoc on our lives, on our city streets. All of those people, their actual problem is that they cannot see. And we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to understand that they specifically are not our enemies, but the thought form they carry is our enemy. And if we kill them, or neutralize them, or demonize them, or vilify them without the recognition of the thought form, which is our enemy, then we haven't defeated the enemy. It will just come back 80 years from now, when the ones who remember having fought it before are dead, and they don't sense those same patterns, and they don't respond against it soon enough. It comes forth in a different form, and it fools us again, and it fools us again, and it fools us again. We keep thinking logic's going to fix this. Logic isn't going to fix this. Actually, logic is going to fix this, but it's logic from a different frame. It's not logic from down here on the, why, they're just lying to us, they're lying to us, they're lying to us. Well, they are lying to us, but what it is it's a disconnect in perception. They're lying to themselves at the heart of it. They're lying to themselves. They've got themselves fooled, and they're crosswise to their two selves. They can't be in alignment with themselves. And do you know how painful that is? Do you know that disconnection from your personal source it's what being in hell actually is. It's that chaos, that discord that comes from being separate from God, because God is within you. God is not outside of you, and therefore inescapable. If God was an outside force that was separate from you and your nature and your atoms and your life and your existence, if God was separate from you, then you could run away from him. But he is not separate from you. He is your higher self. He is your connection to the greater whole. He is the allness, the almighty, that you are a tiny speck in, but you are also, you are two things. You are you in your small perspective, where you and your world is huge, and the rest of the allness is quite small from where you stand. And you are also that other perspective where you are the whole thing, and from that perspective, your little self is small, but then you're not really quite that either, because your inner being self understands how big to the equation your small self really is. And so you're this bridge between the hugeness and the smallness, the micro and the macro. You are this incredible bridge of consciousness that is capable of being aware of all the scales. And you are this divine matrix that we are all a part of, and we have been brought into this equation for a reason. The divine has brought you into this equation for a reason. And I am so sorry. Oh my God, am I sorry. Now, I haven't personally been responsible for every bit of it, but any part of it that I ever understood and didn't care about, or didn't, I don't know, don't use any of this for self-flagellation either, people, but oh my God, am I sorry. And I would like to spend the rest of my life dedicated to this teaching, which I believe is going to be the antidote to this horrible injustice that has been done upon non-white people here in my country, this this horrible thing is being wrought upon my people specifically because of the disparity between the promise of America and the aspirational foundational documents that declared this is what we believe to be sacred and true about humanity, and then the fact that our government, our principles, our thoughts, our ideas have never lived up to that reality. And it needs to. It needs to. We are seeing a big, fat, ugly reflection of ourselves. But the answer is not to hate ourselves. The answer is not to self-flagellate more, because the actual problem comes from feelings of unworthiness. The inability to see what others are feeling comes from a crosswise, you've gotten crosswise of your own energy stream within your own internal person, and your own personal pain is so high that you can't tear yourself away from it, and you think that you are bad, I am bad, I am bad, I am doing this wrong, I can't do it. And so any criticism whatsoever, anybody else trying to point out, hey, what I think you're doing is, it's seen as a hyper threat. They will turn and bite your head off, and coming from a standpoint of, I know what I'm doing. What these people actually do not know is what they are doing right. That's what they do not know. In a way, President Trump is absolutely aware of all of the criticism, and it drives him absolutely crazy because of the internal forces going on within his own self. He cannot bear to hear even one more, because he knows it. What he doesn't really know is all of the wonderful things that he says about himself. He's like a toddler trying to convince himself of something that he absolutely does not believe. This is such horrifically crossed energy. And it's massive misalignment. And so, of course, every idea he has is crap, you know, and every idea that springs forth from the administration is crap. But you've got to understand why it's crap, and not to battle it on the outside peripheral edges with every single frickin', battle with all this bristly resistance and declaring the enemy, and, you are the enemy and we are blah, blah, blah. That's not how we're going to fix this. We fix this from a position of understanding who we are, what source energy is, and what our emotions are. Our emotions are produced by a relativity, either a resonance or a dissonance between our two selves, between our two scales, between our macro scale and our micro scale. They need to line up, because you're looking at the same world. And if they don't line up, if you can't line your individual life up with a vision of the macro world that that you're banging around in, you may not have your imaginational structures lined up correctly as to what the universe actually is. So what is the universe? Let's dial it back to the basics. The universe is a quantized, pixelated, the universe is pixelated, and the pixels are Plancks. They are little Planck frequencies, and they can either be organized within a proton that little tight little with a vortex of there's a singularity at the center of that proton, and what that proton is a field of Planck oscillators spinning in a vortex of it's a black hole is what it is. And a um, a black hole proton, let's see, I'm sorry that I have to peer into my screen this way. Black hole proton. I have all these. I have all those. I have a lot of scenes, and I used to use them as I tried to explain my whole thing. I was trying to put it all together and show you how and why I think we've been genetically modified too. And by the way, our genetic modification produced the neocortex, which is the instrument, it's the aspect of our anatomy which produces the second mind, which has the ability to produce this incredible instrument of that human beings possess of emotion. It's an instrument that you can play along a spectrum of, you can play the notes of this instrument that we possess. And as soon as you play certain notes, it creates things in reality, that it creates templates of things that then you can go follow to create the reality that you want based on that feeling. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing instrument. And instead of exploring with wonder and reverence how to use this instrument, we spend an awful lot of time disparaging ourselves and each other. And I wish we'd quit that, you know? I really wish we'd quit that. We are amazing, delightful, and playful creatures. And I would like to play with us, play golf and sail and snorkel and picnic and cook delicious food and grow delicious food and make friends with all of the rest of the creatures on the planet and figure out ways to rebloom our ecosystems. And by the way, we don't need fossil fuels. We can plug directly into source energy if we would completely understand how this frickin' thing works. And by the way, it also has all the implications for what the heck the force of gravity actually is and how to control it. All of these things are possible, people, but we need to lean in this direction. We need to understand that it is possible. You aren't even going to look that way if you don't think it's possible. Where am I? Am I at an hour yet? Oh wow, I'm an hour and 14 minutes. What time is it? It is 7:12. Okay. Uh, so how do I get to from here to we don't need fossil fuels anymore? Understand, actually understand within your soul, like you go into your consciousness and the framework, the macro and the micro, they fit one right over the other, and you're like, oh my God, that's who we are. And then you realize your personal implications, but you realize that the greater implications come from when more of us understand this. And so you just can't get away from the fact that you want to try to teach people this. You want to help them understand this being of light that we are. Literally, I think that our consciousness is light moving through time. And time is just, it's the sensation that we have as our consciousness moves through the experience. Actually, it's not exactly that either, because it's assuming that everything is already over, like it's finished, like it hasn't, like there isn't fresh new things to understand and put together in ways that they have never been put together before. All the ingredients are there, but there are some things that have never been put together in ways that you could spin them. In that sense, there are new creations to be born, and it's not all old hat and chewed meat. And um, so, anyway, I guess I'll come back tomorrow. Today is my day to be grandma. I get to babysit young grandson for most of the day. Pray for me, wish me luck, and whatever your challenge is, whatever you are facing today, um, try to face it with love and courage and with your whole self, which means try to stay, try to stay in good humor, because that's your whole self. The one that falls into, whatever, that's just a piece of you. She's not wrong, she's not bad, but she's not whole. Try to pull her together and do the best you can, and know that you are here for a reason. The divine has brought you here, and tune in if you want to help take my journey to help you take your journey to find what our destiny is. Who are we and what are we about? Um, Tune in tomorrow and we'll keep working on this. And until then, keep that source close, and may the source be with you, of course. And ta-ta.